And with that, we welcome you to the second floor of the Duncan Student Center alongside my man, Jimmy Collins. I'm Jacob Irons. A lot to break down in this bracket reaction edition of Shamrock Sports. Notre Dame getting paired up against in-state opponent Indiana, which should be really fun. It's the 10-7 matchup. It kicks off this new 12-team format on Friday night at 8 o'clock on December 20th. It should be a lot of fun. The bracket had a little bit of nuance to it in comparison to what everyone thought it could have, with Alabama being left out, SMU in. I want to get what you thought, Jimmy. What are those initial reactions to how you thought everything played out yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that came to mind for me was just that the committee did the right thing. I think, especially after last year, where there were a lot of people that were upset with how the Florida State situation and putting Alabama in over them after Jordan Travis's injury was handled. But this year, I think that they corrected, I guess, that mistake.
Yeah.
Now, at the time, I thought they should have put Alabama in too, but a lot of people thought it was a mistake. And I think this year, the committee did the right thing when you look at where they put Notre Dame in relation to Texas and Penn State, putting Notre Dame behind both of them to show that when they say that they're not going to punish a team for losing in their conference championship game, they mean it. I know a lot of people think, oh, Notre Dame should be ahead of Penn State, but maybe not Texas. But then if you put Notre Dame ahead of Penn State and not ahead of Texas, then you're showing that it's just dependent on who the school is. So at the end of the day, I think they did the right thing. I think putting SMU in, keeping them in favor of 9-3 Alabama also shows that you can't lose 3 games unless you win your conference championship. So at the end of the day, I think they did the right thing with SMU, and they did the right thing with the way that they ordered Notre Dame behind Texas and Penn State.
Yeah, I think for me, my biggest reaction off of this is how much value the conference championship has and whether it should continue in that regard. I think that's maybe one of the biggest things right now is that whether you look at the Mountain West and whether Boise State winning theirs really gives them the 3 seed overall as a conference champion.
Yeah, I do think that the formatting is going to change in the future. I think a lot of people seem pretty upset that Boise State and Arizona State and Clemson are not Clemson, but they're getting buys. And in years past, it's just been the top teams. I think that there is reason to believe that a team like Notre Dame or a team like Texas deserve a bye, even though they didn't have a conference championship to show for. So I think the format will change. I think in the future you will see the top-ranked teams, if they expand the playoff or keep it at 12, but it will, in the future, I think, be the top 4 teams that get the bye rather than just your conference champions. Which
would help Notre Dame at the end of the day because as of how it stands right now, they can't get one of those top 4 seeds because they're not in a conference. They remain independent. However, if it was to change that, they could potentially get a bye if they were one of the top 4 seeds. Now, turning back to Notre Dame, they pair up against Indiana, and it's one of those great, awesome rivalries that you didn't know you were going to have. This is going to be the first time in a while that they're going to come up into South Bend, and it's been all Notre Dame within their series for the most part, but you start to feel an in-state rivalry start to brew just because of the playoff implications.
Well, yeah, it's the state championship. I feel like
it's high school football on Friday night on top of it. Exactly. It's like you're sitting here, you're gonna have the lights out here in Notre Dame Stadium. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think a lot of people going into Sunday morning were maybe hoping that Notre Dame would get to play Alabama if the committee were to put Alabama in, just because of the brand names, the Alabama who won multiple national championships under Nick Saban, their most recent one just a few years ago, and then Notre Dame, one of the most historic programs in college football. I think that would have been very cool, but I think Notre Dame being able to play IU, who, it's a program that has struggled in years past, and it's been a very sudden change, really a 1-year change, and they're included now in the first rendition of the 12-team college football playoff. And I think it being really like a state championship is one of the most intriguing matchups of the entire bracket.
Yeah, it really is, and it's what kicks us off once again Friday, December 20th, 8 p.m. on ESPN. Really should be an interesting game to see all the little intricate details. However, one of the best intricate details, a part of this, is the 2 coaches that are going from each side right now. For both of them, they're complete opposites in how you sit in the coaching landscape. For Indiana, they're led by a brash and brazen Curt Cignetti, who really says all you need to do is go to the internet.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
For Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman did just that when they found out who they were playing.
Took a minute and Googled him and looked at some of the things he's done in the past at his other places. I mean, he's won everywhere he's been. So he's done a great job, and we expect a great opponent.
I just think it's such witty banter. And I understand people are going to be out there being like, oh, he didn't know what he was saying. He knew what he was saying. That's Notre Dame for you. That's a witty comeback that you didn't know what was coming. No, Marcus Freeman, you better know he believes. While you might say, oh, I don't listen to everything that's going on in media, that's a witty comeback from Marcus Freeman.
Yeah, especially Curt Cignetti really being the talk of the media for the first 10, 11 weeks of the college football season prior to that Ohio State game, where you saw the Ohio State players and coaches talking about, referencing the same thing. So I think it's all fun and games, and they'll settle it on the field.
Two different styles of play as well, really, for the two teams. How do you think Notre Dame matches up in that style of play?
Well, I do think that Indiana has one of the best run defenses in the country, but I think a lot of that has to do with the run offenses that they faced. Notre Dame will be the best rushing offense that they face. I think Notre Dame's defense matches up well with the way that IU likes to play and spread the field and score a lot of points fast. I think Notre Dame will be able to neutralize that. But I do think Riley Leonard's legs are going to be a huge part of this game because IU's rush defense is good. Yeah. So they're not going to be able to just run it up the gut all game. Riley Leonard's going to have to use his legs, extend plays, and maybe even run the ball.
Yeah, we'll find out and see how it all breaks down. We've got our very own brackets when we come back on the other side.
Welcome to Shamrock Sports. My name is Tyler Reedy, joined alongside Avery White and Cooper Van Driesch. And hey, we've got a great show on tap today as the anticipation is building with Notre Dame football set to take the field once again tomorrow.
I know. I'm looking forward to seeing how the Notre Dame offensive line comes out.
Check up. Let's go.
That position group will be critical for the Irish.
Hey! That's and one. That's and one.
Hey, I hate to be that guy, but we're kind of in the middle of something here. It's pretty important.
We know you guys want to play too. I mean, we need 3 more.
3 more?
Yeah, I've been waiting for this. Come on.
And we now take you into our brackets. This is our expert opinion and analysis of how we're going to get to a national champion around a month from when we start in the first round. So this is for me. We'll start top to bottom. I got Texas. I think Sark's got a really good team. I really like right now, though, if you have to ask me why I'm picking Texas, it's their special teams. They've got one of the best special teams coaches in the entire country. Give me Texas there. Then Tennessee, Ohio State. I think Ohio State really has the $1 million roster we've been hearing about all year. They just have some bad losses. They're going to figure it out. They'll go play Oregon. SMU versus Penn State. I think this is going to be the tightest game of all of them in that first round. I think Penn State etches out the Ponies by a field goal, and this is for my Omni fantasy within student media right there. Give me Penn State. Then I have Indiana beating Notre Dame. I think this is a tough game. If you ask me any of our first selections, I think I would have asked not for Indiana. I think there's a lot of ramifications on how everything else is going to be played because let's take a look. You could have gotten SMU. They're from Dallas. Could have gotten Tennessee. That's Knoxville. It's not like overtly cold, but like still would have been a little bit of a culture shock. Or then you could have gotten Clemson or Texas, and that would have been culture shocks. I think the weather's not going to play as much of a factor. I think just the drive up's not going to play as much of a factor. I think it's a really tough sell for Notre Dame to get by Indiana. I also am the pessimist in the group. I will leave it at that and on those.
Mind if I pose you a question?
Okay.
If the reason you're not picking Notre Dame is because the team that they're going to play can handle the potential weather, then do you think that that Notre Dame's even good enough to be here?
No.
Because if you're relying on that, then it doesn't seem like you think they should be here.
I think Notre Dame is a high school football team right now that has found themselves in a very interesting spot, that they have one loss, they've beaten teams. I just don't know if they've beaten the caliber of team like an Indiana that's going to test them in the first round. And then I have pretty stereotypical the rest of the way. I think everyone else is probably going to agree with me for the most part. Texas, Oregon, Penn State, Georgia, and then Oregon, Georgia to finish it out. Oregon's your national champion. I don't think there's going to be that much. I don't blow up the entire world in my bracket. I think this one section is where I blow up the entire world with having Indiana go forward.
Yeah.
But I know you have hard disagreements from my bracket to your bracket.
Yes, I mean, you picked one upset. I picked a couple more. So starting up here, I'm between Clemson and Texas. I'm taking Clemson. The reason I'm taking Clemson, though, I think the Texas is a very good team. I think they're very physical. I think they're a dominant SEC team, but they haven't beaten anyone this year.
Yeah.
Their best win being on the road at Michigan in week 2, that looked like a very good win. But 3 weeks after that game, I think a lot of people seem to realize that this Michigan team wasn't the team that won the national championship just last year. So I think Clemson is peaking right now at the right time. I think Dabo Swinney is a great coach. I think he's going to coach Clemson to win on the road at Texas in Austin. Then I've got Ohio State over Tennessee. I don't think this one's going to be particularly close. I think Ryan Day is really coaching for his job in this game. He has to win this game. If they lose in the first round, I think we could see a new head coach in Columbus. I think they realize that maybe they're not the physical team that they want to be. They're not going to run it down your throat. But they do have one of the best passing attacks with probably the best group of receivers in the country. So I think they're going to utilize that against Tennessee. That is one where I could see the weather playing a factor for Ohio State. And then I've got Penn State over SMU. I do agree with you. I think this is going to be a very close game. I think SMU is a team that can score, and they can score fast. I think the atmosphere at in-state college is going to help Penn State a lot. So I got Penn State in a close one there. And then I've got Notre Dame over Indiana. And I think a lot of that just has to do with, I think that this is a very good matchup for Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball at will with Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, maybe even Aeneas Williams and Riley Leonard. But at the same time, I do think that this is the best rushing attack that IU will face all season. And on the flip side, you saw how Indiana's offense performed at Ohio State. I think it's going to be pretty similar. This is an Indiana team that can score and can score fast, but when they face good defenses like Ohio State and Michigan, it gave them a little fits. Those games were closer. I think Notre Dame's defense neutralizes them well. I think Notre Dame controls the clock. I think they control the game.
And you have them controlling their destiny all the way to the national championship.
Yes, I do. We're going to start back at the top. But I've got Clemson beating Arizona State. I just think Clemson is hot right now.
Yeah.
And I think if they go in and beat Texas, I also think they're going to beat Arizona State. I think Arizona State's awesome. Cam Scatterbo is awesome. One of the most fun players to watch in the country. But I've got Clemson there. I've got Oregon beating Ohio State in another rematch. I think the Ohio State, you could argue, could have or should have won the first game in Autzen, but I think Oregon takes it again. I think they're one of the most talented teams in the country, and I think their talent on offense matches Ohio State's. So I think they take it there. I think they're a very well-rounded team. I think Penn State beats Boise. In my opinion, I think Boise State is the worst team in the field, and I know it's weird because they have a first-round bye and they're the 3 seed, but I think Penn State beats Boise and moves to the semifinals. And then Notre Dame and Georgia is tough, but I think Notre Dame beats Georgia. I think their defense is going to show. It is one of the best defenses in the country in this playoff. And then I've got Oregon. I think Oregon's just too much for Clemson. And I got Notre Dame beating Penn State. I think they play 2 very similar games, and I think Notre Dame is better than Penn State. So I think Notre Dame beats Penn State. And then, same as you, I have Oregon win the national championship. I think they're the most talented and well-rounded team in the country this year. And, I mean, they're the #1 seed for a reason.
Yeah, and I think they're really well coached with Dan Lanning at the helm. He's done a really good job. The Ducks might be flying high in Eugene if both of our predictions come true. You could be flying high as well if you stick around for our Shambookie picks. We might earn you some money here in an early Shambookie for the first round of college football playoffs.
No ball? Let the seasoned ball knowers at Shamrock Sports get you up to date on all things ball around Notre Dame. Shamrock Sports airs 3:30 p.m. every Friday right here on NDTV. Go Irish.
And welcome you back. Let's get you some money here. I think we can earn you some big money. We'll start with me. It's no shocker after my bracket. I am going to give Indiana +8 right now. I think with Indiana and how well they are playing currently and how I expect their game to be right now at the given moment, give me the +8. I think Indiana, once again, I think they cover this. They win the game outright. So I think they've been putting it together in a really good fashion. I think this game comes down to a potential field goal, which I don't think helps Notre Dame's case currently with some problems in the field goal unit. So give me Indiana +8. I think this is a lock of a century. Even if Notre Dame does win, it's by a field goal, if that.
Yes, I'm going to keep it in the Big Ten, and I'm going to take Ohio State -7 against Tennessee. I think Ohio State, obviously coming off a really, really tough loss against Michigan. I think they found out a lot about their team in what'll be 3 weeks after. But I think they found out a lot about their team. They really know their strength now. I think they can score at will against anyone in the country. And at the same time, I think Tennessee, with a younger quarterback, is going to struggle in Columbus. And I think Ohio State is going to win by 2 to 3 scores. And I think Ryan Day keeps his job, and Ohio State puts up a good performance.
We're going to find out soon enough here with the college football playoffs looming in the distance. December 20th, weather forecast around a high of 38, low of 28.
Which is good for IU,
which is
like you say.
Good for Indiana. Gotta love Jimmy Collins, everybody. Gotta love Jimmy Collins. That will do our fall semester here at Shamrock Sports. We thank you so much for tuning in, and we thank all the students that have worked so hard throughout the entire semester behind the scenes, being able to bring you this show week in and week out. We hope if Notre Dame goes on the run that Jimmy believes they will, we could very well have another Shamrock Sports where we're talking about a national championship. So we hope for that, and we hope that you will watch. From all of us at NDTV, we wish you a happy holidays, and thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the new year.